Hello, this is Kelly Jennings with another Apex Nutrition podcast. Today we are going to talk about the top 10 mistakes I see teen athletes, parents, and coaches make when it comes to sports nutrition. Plus, at the end, I'm going to tell you the one surprising thing I would have on the bench or the sideline if I were the coach. All right, ready? Probably going to get myself into some hot water here, but nevertheless, here we go. Number one. And this is for the teen athletes. The number one mistake I think you make, and this isn't the biggest mistake, we're just going through 10, not in any specific order. The first one is not eating enough during the day before your afternoon training session, practice, or game. What this means is over and over, I see teens not getting a real good breakfast because they're running out the door in the morning, maybe a hit or miss lunch. Maybe they've packed it, maybe it's school lunch and they don't quite like it, or they run out and get something, but it's just junk, like one pizza slice. And then no pre-training fuel, and they go to practice. When I speak to groups of teen athletes, sometimes I tell them to close their eyes. Imagine that they had just gotten to a game or a practice, an important practice, or they're on the track ready to start a race, and they look down and they realize they've forgotten their shoes. They're barefoot. And they look over the coach and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be in so much trouble. I don't have any shoes. This is how you should feel if you come to practice without any nutrients in your body for the day. If you are running on low, you are not gonna practice well. So that's the number one first mistake, is not being adequately fueled. You should eat the majority of your calories, AKA units of energy, during the day. Number two, same sort of thing, is coming dehydrated. We talk a lot about the direct impact of hydration on athletes for every percentage of body weight they lose. So let's say you weigh 100 pounds and you lose 2 pounds and you're starting to get very thirsty. That's kind of what comes right before it starts to impair your performance. But that's assuming that you're starting at baseline. If you already start down 2 pounds because you haven't drank anything all day, it's going to be real easy for you to get into that 4%, 5% body weight where it's really impacting your performance, impacting your brain, your ability to think and concentrate, and all sorts of things. You're definitely going to feel like things are harder, like you're dragging, your sense of effort goes up. So that's the second one, is coming to practice dehydrated. Number three, this one's for parents, is doing some sort of food philosophy or diet at your home and not realizing how that might impact your growing teen athlete. So let's just say the most benign one maybe is just being ultra healthy. Like you do not allow sugar in your home, right? No added sugar, no desserts, no nothing like that. Couple things just to keep in mind. One is performance nutrition or training nutrition often requires some sugar. So this means that things that are very easy to break down and to digest and metabolize are the best sources of fuel for teen athletes when they're in the midst of the practice, the training, the activity, the competition, the race. They're gonna need something like a sports drink. They're gonna need something maybe like fruit snacks or fig bars or something. Cookies are great. They can be homemade. Banana bread and cookies are awesome. But they're gonna need something. And if you've created this all-out ban on sugar or made it a villain in your life and their lives, and they hear this, they're gonna have a hard time understanding that that's actually the fuel their body needs. This can be other things too. Sometimes parents go on super low-fat diets, vegan diets, keto diets, carnivore diets, all the things. It's important, for one, that you realize that your teen athlete is probably growing and they need such a huge variety of vitamins and minerals, nutrients to grow. I mean, they're literally building bones. Can you imagine going from kind of nothing to something, building bones? They need calcium, magnesium, all the things. So if you are going to do that, I recommend that you help them understand that this is an adult choice that you're making, but that you're loosening it for them, and that you'll buy them a variety of foods, and that you'll make sure you have a good understanding of what all they need so that they get enough. Sometimes with the ultra healthy and the vegan type foods, they end up getting a huge amount of fiber. So even if they're getting adequate calories, adequate protein through all the different plant sources or whatever that way, they may not actually be absorbing all of that because fiber tends to bind and help us eliminate things. And so they may not be getting all the nutrients and calories and grams of protein, things like that they are needing. So that is a kind of an issue that can happen. So just be very aware of what you're doing and what your teen actually needs. Number 4 is having a water-only stance to sports drinks or sports hydration. Now, water can be great, but realize that athletes, especially teen ones who absolutely can use almost all the nutrients you can give them during training, they are needing fluid, electrolytes, and carbohydrates during most trainings, practices, competitions, not just water. When they sweat, they're losing more than fluid. They're losing electrolytes. Often they are playing in gyms or otherwise extremely hot conditions. And these electrolytes make a difference acutely during the training. They make a difference with how much they can absorb, whether or not they feel nauseous, whether or not things empty out of their stomachs, and whether or not they have the right ratio of electrolytes to plasma in their arteries. Another thing that happens is sodium, which hopefully is not vilified, but sodium has an oncotic pressure to it, which means it attracts to it the fluid. So if in the artery, if there's sodium in the plasma, it holds the fluid in there where it is useful and can be used by the cells. Whenever we have way too much fluid but not enough sodium, it starts leaking out into extra areas in the tissue. It's called third spacing, and it becomes no longer usable. So even if you're drinking all the water you need, that water may not be being used as it should be. And so I recommend an approach of carbohydrates, fluids, and electrolytes. And I think there are good, kind of real food-based sports drinks out there and fuels that they can use if that's the worry, but it shouldn't be a water only, especially, without getting other calories, carbs, and electrolytes elsewhere. There's just no scenario I can think of where teen, high school, middle school athletes should be trying to be fat adapted or otherwise and not consuming fuel during their trainings. Number 5 is repeating the nutrition advice you got from your coaches just because it's what they said to the next line of people. Whether this is parents thinking of what their coaches told them when they were in soccer, or a coach telling the kids what they were told when they were in soccer. A lot of times it's super outdated or just not correct and based off of who knows what they were taught. So, and sometimes it works. To be honest, sometimes people can overcome bad nutrition, but they're not going to perform optimally. They're not going to feel their best. Their brains aren't going to work quite as sharply as they would otherwise. And they're not going to have the speed, power, agility, reaction time, any of those things that they would have if they had enough glucose to operate on in their brains, in their cells, and making energy for them. Number 6, this is often for athletic parents who the issue here is basing what your kids need off of your experience with athletics present day as an adult. So let's say you're a runner. A lot of times our adult sports become like endurance sports, right? Like cycling and running and things like that. So let's say you're a runner and you go out for 90 minutes a day and you think to yourself, I don't carry hardly anything with me. And I drink water before and after and I feel fine. And then you think about your son in soccer and it's about the same amount of time or whatever. So you think that's enough for him or her as well. Here's the problem. One is that endurance athletics are very different than sports where you go anaerobic and aerobic, meaning that there's times when you're sprinting, there's times when you're not sprinting, things like that. For one, when you are sprinting, you are anaerobic and you are using glycogen. When you are going on long runs, you're aerobic and you can convert other things in your body to the carbohydrates and the glucose you need. And that's completely different. Also, when it's a slow, steady pace, you simply don't require that really quick use of energy like you do when you sprint. Another thing to think about is that often kids and teens don't have that adequate hydration and fueling going into it, so they kind of need everything they can get. And then the last thing is that the teen athlete might be growing, so just their need for fuel is kind of different than it ever will be again. They need so much. When I go through with athletes that I work with, I literally go through everything they eat all day long compared to their schedule of what they're doing. And even for those that the parents will say, oh my gosh, he's eating me out of house and home, he eats so much. A lot of times what they see is what he eats when he gets home and he's starving after practice. So that's different than seeing how much he's really eating all day long and how much he's eating going into that competition or practice, which might be inadequate. And so basing his fueling, assuming that he's going into it well nourished, isn't always the right assumption. So to base that on adult athletics is not the right thing to do either. All right, number 7 is to make the wrong assumption that when you watch a sport and you think the kid is just standing around a lot. I think of this a lot with soccer, because different people in different positions, they do stand during games at sometimes, and then they have to sprint, and then they do stand. So here's the thing about the sprints. We touched on it a moment ago, but when you sprint, you go into an anaerobic state, meaning without oxygen. That is a completely different pathway that your body uses than it does when you are aerobic and kind of going for a slower, longer ride or run or whatever you're doing. When you're anaerobic, your body depends on glycogen. Glycogen is the stored form of carbohydrates in the muscles, and it is extremely efficient. You can use it without oxygen, and it converts into energy right when you need it. So that's great. The problem is you've only got a few minutes worth of glycogen stored in your body. It's highly dependent on the amount of a muscle you have, because it's literally attached to those muscles. So greater muscle mass can store more glycogen, but often those heavier weights also require more energy to move. So it's kind of the same thing no matter what. No matter the case, the two places that you kind of get efficient energy from are the glucose in your plasma that's easily converted into energy by the cells. And when we're in an active state, all of this is hyped up. So it's even more easily converted than it normally would be. And then glycogen. So when you're anaerobic, you use glycogen. When you're aerobic, you can easily convert that's in the plasma. And then when you run out of that and what the liver can give, that's when you start using the inefficient methods of getting glucose from other places. So what we want to do is we want to consume fuel carbs, specifically easy to digest, quick acting carbs, immediately before and during activity, because that will give our bodies, top off our livers, and also give our body constant flow through the plasma that can be used. That preserves that glycogen, so it's not called upon, and it's only used for the sprints. This will make a huge difference at the end of the game. Let's say a soccer game. If you can consume carbs before, any during, and if it's not until halftime, then fine. Then you consume as many as you can without upsetting your stomach, at halftime. This probably means a sports drink, maybe some fruit snacks or fig bars, something like that that you can eat, that you've practiced with, that you know. Then that's going to make a difference in preserving and helping keep those glycogen stores there. So at the end, when you have to do a sprint, you still can. This is why kids often look like they're just dead at the end of games. They don't have it anymore because they can't use glycogen. It's all gone. So, whenever you see sports that don't look like they're running the whole time and you compare that to your long run, that's what to keep in mind. It's completely different to sprint. Number 8, and this is for coaches, is not allowing adequate breaks. I know you don't have very much time. You probably have way less time each afternoon, than you would like to prepare those athletes for games and competitions coming up. But I believe you'll get more efficient work out of them if you do give them breaks, especially if you set the expectation that they are to have the drink and fuel ready and available, that they don't have to go to their trucks or something or, dig it out of a backpack, that it's available and they get like 2 minutes to go drink something, eat something, and get back on the field or back on the court or whatever it is. I think if you set that expectation, but then give them regular drinks, just like you would in a game, I'm thinking like basketball, they would have timeouts, they would have, quarters and different things to drink, then that's what you do. It's super important to practice it too. That's another part of it. If you don't practice with fuel, there's a huge component of being anxious of whether or not the fuel will settle right in your stomach, if it's going to cause someone to throw up, whether or not it tastes good, if they like it, does it cause a stomach cramp, all these things. If you can help them practice with it, so they know without a shadow of a doubt that it feels great and that they end practice on a high note and they're energized, then that takes a lot of anxiety and gives confidence. Then that's what they can do in a game too. And they don't need to change it up. They can just stick with it. Then that's the best thing to do. So give those adequate breaks. Number 9, and this is for parents and teens together, is I believe it's the parents' responsibility to, as much as possible, make the foods and fuels available for them. So let's say with the case of not getting enough adequate daily nutrition leading up to practice, you want to make foods available for them to pack. Like if they need more snacks, that they have it so they can pack it, or if they want to pack their lunch, that the food's there available. Teens, especially teenagers who are in high school, but maybe even starting in middle school, okay, that's your parents' responsibility. Now it's your responsibility to make it and pack it. So that's you. If it's available there in your kitchen, and sometimes maybe it's, the end of the budget month or whatever, and you have to get a little creative, so be it. Get creative, find those pretzels, do what you need to do, and get your fuel. So there's the parents part and there's the teen part, and everyone needs to be doing their job to make this work. Number 10, and this would be for coaches maybe and teen athletes, is not considering how much better they might become if they're fueled well until the end of practice or the end of a game. I'm thinking of basketball again, and so many times you go to the end of practice and you do the free throw drill where someone gets called out there and they have to do free throws, right? They shoot free throws, and then everyone has to run suicides or sprints or whatever based on whether they make it or not. I get that you're trying to replicate the end of a game when everyone is tired and they have to make free throws and there's pressure on them. And that's great. But I think in both cases, end of game and end of practice, they'll do better if they have those glycogen stores and glucose in their plasma ready to go, ready for energy. Because if they don't, one, like I said, glucose is what fuels the brain. And so, the just overwhelm, the stress, the mental clarity and the focus, reaction time, all that stuff is different when you don't have enough glucose in your brain. So if you can teach them, I had a coach once say, practice doesn't make perfect, perfect practice makes perfect. So meaning if you practice bad form, bad, mental thoughts, bad everything, then that's the type of performance you're going to give, and that's not perfection. But if you can practice perfectly, so your form is correct, so your thoughts are correct, so you are confident, then that's what's going to come out in a game. And so just to really kind of reemphasize that maybe fueling will make for perfect practice, and then that's going to make perfect overall. So super important. That's what I think and what I preach. And, I've worked with enough teen athletes to see the difference it does make. And we're talking All-American type athletes. So I think that this can be a huge help for teams and coaches and parents, and I do want to give you a solution. So if you go to my website, apexnutritionllc.com, the first thing you'll see is that I do a dinner club where I plan dinners, 5 dinners a week for people with complete shopping lists and menus and recipes. If you're interested in that, if you are overwhelmed by making dinner every night and you want easy dinners to make every night, then that's for you. But that's not what I'm here to tell you. If you scroll down, you'll see my single solution nutrition plans. And one is the 5 must-have nutrition strategies for teen athletes. So I've told you these mistakes and I've kind of led on to what will correct them. But if you want a step-by-step guide, and it's a video and it is a PDF that gives all kinds of examples of the fuel you can use. It gives my favorite recipe, so a homemade sports drink that is amazing tasting and will do the trick and is convenient and easy for you to buy at any supermarket and so on and so forth. I also give a few recipes of homemade fuels that I think are great, a recovery snack that is my favorite. I meant for it to only be like a 15-minute video, and it ended up being about double that because this is probably one of my biggest passions right now, is sports nutrition for teens. I think you can make a huge difference. And then secondary, or somewhere up there with it, would be just helping parents lose the overwhelm of dinner by doing a dinner plan for them. So check it out. I think it can help you so much, and I hope that it does. So thank you so much for listening, and please share this with you. I mean, most parents have tons of other parents in other towns or on the team or whatever who could use some direction with sports nutrition as well. That single single solution nutrition plans. All of mine are $27, so it's not going to break the bank for anyone. So please check it out and get on the right track this season with your teen athlete. Thank you. Sorry, I think I forgot to tell you, it was like my lead magnet thing. The number one thing I would have on the sideline or bench if I was a coach. And this is, my kids could tell you, because every time I'm watching something on TV and someone gets a cramp that's completely debilitating and they're like laying on the ground and people are like carrying them off the court or the field or whatever, I say it every single time. I say, why doesn't that coach have some pickle juice? So why pickle juice? It's not the sodium and it's not the fluid, although those help. It's the vinegar. The acetic acid in vinegar, in pickle juice, actually triggers nerves in the roof of your mouth that trigger a whole cascade that triggers muscles to stop cramping. Now, it's not like 100% surefire, absolutely you're not gonna cramp. If you're cramping and you're just completely dehydrated and a mess, then that's probably not going to fix it. But in a lot of cases, it's just kind of a misfiring in the muscle. Maybe they are working harder than they've worked, all season. Like it's the first game and all they've had is practice and they haven't quite put themselves in the position of, going as hard as they're going right now. But if that's the case and it's not just complete dehydration and malnutrition, then yeah, pickle juice can work. I would have a bottle of pickle juice on the sideline, ready to squirt into whoever's mouth who has cramps. So give it a shot, see what you think. You can look it up. I'll actually link to some pickle juice information below this so you can trust me. And I hope that helps. Good luck to everyone this season. Bye.